Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to sincerely thank Heseltine Institute and particularly Professor Mark Boyle for inviting me here today at the University of Liverpool. It's a great honor for me to share this panel, at least virtually, with Professor Rob Kitchen and Dr. Matthew Thompson. In the 17 minutes of my talk, I will elaborate on data ecosystems and democracy, technopolitics in smart cities. Over the last decades, academics and policymakers have been imagining what a smart city would look like. In the meantime, pervasively though, we have reached the point in which AI can predict citizens' future behavior with powerful new simulations at a large ethical and democratic cost, we must confess. Concluding that, as Habermas pointed out, smartness in cities cannot be more technocratic than democratic. So the present times, I guess, that could be summarized as follows. First of all, we are already becoming tiny chips inside a giant system that nobody really understands, according to Harari. The second quotation that I would like to use is that we need a new deal on data. And the third quotation is that without the related data ecosystems, Europe might lose its opportunity to establish a pan-European post-GDPR and human-centric AI strategy. But more clearly, framing the debate as the Symposium has addressed, how can we help city leaders and municipal authorities to use data ethically while delivering public good? My answer would be that city representatives in Europe are not solely in charge of coordinating funded smart city projects. And this group must also engage in joint continuous conversations with diverse and numerous groups of city regional stakeholders, as well as consider a generation of smart technologies. The point is that against this backdrop, over the recent years, a smart city has become already eminently a mainstream technocratic concept in the European policy agendas, particularly through Horizon 2020 Smart Cities and Communities policy framework, encompassing at the moment 17 lighthouse projects involving 46 lighthouse cities and 71 follower cities. These agendas have taken for granted, at least according to my research, the meaning of stakeholders without further questionings who the term actually references, which puts at the stake both urban democracy and the related political decisions for the city itself. In addition, increasingly, autonomous and invisible algorithms have made it even harder for city authorities to detect and scrutinize the impartiality status resulting in a technocratic governance push of the smart city. According to Rob Kitchen, technocratic governance could be defined as the procedure by which all aspects of a city can be measured and monitored and treated as technical problems that can be addressed through technical solutions. Hence, the demise of democracy is clearly one of the largest policy challenges of our time. And the undermining of citizen digital rights is part of this issue. This includes a wide range of complex rights that need to be addressed alongside legal and human rights in a digital world by local authorities. This debate has emerged particularly in European cities and regions about the role of citizens in their cities and how they control and understand their own data. Unlike in China or the US, the debate around the data in Europe is currently open and Europe has the opportunity to lead this area. So city and regional authorities must collaborate further on the ethical and social benefit of data capture and AI for their citizens. So local and regional authorities at the regional level need to show citizens, first and foremost, that they will protect the data and rights, and that data will be used in responsible ways. Once this trust is established, people might be, in turn, more willing to agree to the use of AI in various government services. So let me conclude this introduction citing 3 female authors. And the first one is Hannah Arendt argued that the trouble with modern theories of behaviorism is not that they are wrong, but they could become true. And in this direction, Zuboff recently pointed out in the New York Times that we are now remotely controlled. We thought that we search Google, but now we understand that Google searches us. So I think that the challenge, according to in a similar vein by Mariana Mazzucato, arguing that exploiting technologies that were originally developed by the public sector should be reformed. And in this sense, digital economy should be reformed to address and share collective ends, and is defining economic challenges of our time. So what to do and how to proceed from city regional authorities. Back in 2017, I conducted fieldwork research funded by Marie Curie Fellowship in 4 European smart city regions, namely Glasgow, Bristol in the UK, and Bilbao and Barcelona in Spain, particularly interested in developing further 2 intuitions or hypotheses. The first intuition or hypothesis was to unpack the techno-politics of data in the smart city, believing that decentralizing or devolving data power to citizens would be crucial at the city regional level, as we are seeing now in the new white paper on AI published by the European Commission, and also in the UK, where data sovereignty should be implementing to create data ecosystems by sectors and regions. And the second intuition revolved around the importance of context-aware and locally rooted multi-stakeholder frameworks to arrange data ecosystems in different economic sectors and for public service provisions at the city regional level. Despite the different city regional institutional schemes, I concluded in this research with several data governance models per city per each smart city region, stemming from their multi-stakeholder compositions and interdependencies. In this direction, it is noteworthy among these 4 cases the leading role that Barcelona has been playing since 2015 in Europe in establishing a sustainable paradigm in Europe led by grassroots-driven urban experimentation through the Data Commons policy scheme. Consequently, a vast landscape of data governance models has been flourishing under different banners and brands like data and platform cooperatives, among others, having all in common, I must confess, the aim to protect and empower citizens' digital rights over data ownership and public. So my conclusion is, or I argue that city regional authorities should pay attention and lead data and technological sovereignty to establish and arrange data ecosystems truly aligned with a unique multi-stakeholder policy scheme operating in several sectors, meaning that the ecosystems are the infrastructure, analytics, and data capture systems that are used to take data and rely it to the system owners who can then alter the provision of goods and services accordingly. However, little is known about the long-term socio-political effects of these data ecosystems, which are increasingly reliant on. So present momentum around privacy concerns is seen as a call to action, is what I'm suggesting, to create democratic digital infrastructures and institutions in Europe. And the public sector, all of the public sector, needs to be relevant, innovating, and also involving a plurality of stakeholders and actors. So in order to shed light on this potential pathway, and fundamenting my ideas on evidence-based policy and research interventions, over the last 4 years, I've been directly involved in an EU Lighthouse project encompassing 6 European cities. I'm referring to the Horizon 2020 Replicate project. Since then, I had the opportunity to experiment and conduct fieldwork research with the multi-stakeholder scheme in each city. Thus, to conclude with my presentation, I would like to show 2 main findings of this project, believing that the policy and research implications directly relate to the way city regional authorities can foster further democratic smart cities through data ecosystems that eminently reflect the techno-political landscape of data, not only to regulate extractive practices of big firms, but also to empower indigenous and local SMEs and startups. So the first finding reveals that each city, each case study of those researched and examined shows a unique multi-stakeholder composition, a diverse preferences on business and social models, also a regular presence of the 5th helix, which I refer to it as intermediaries, as social entrepreneurs and activists. The last finding is that the cities that I examined show a willingness to experiment with democratic arrangements beyond the hegemonic public-private partnership PPP. And the second finding on the right-hand side, consequently, reveals that replication strategies among smart cities should be enabled as a multi-directional, radial, dynamic, iterative, and democratic learning processes, overcoming the unidirectional, hierarchical, mechanistic, solutionist, technocratic approach. So my final remarks consist of 8 recommendations for city regional authorities, starting from putting in place multi-stakeholder policy frameworks, following what I call pentahelix policy framework, for sharing among stakeholders and cities through city-to-city learning processes rather than pure replication, facilitating data sovereignty and evolution by experimenting unique data governance models among stakeholders, therefore reverting the one-size-fits-all and hegemonic, not always, but sometimes technocratic PPP model for smart cities towards further democratic standpoint, allowing city regional authorities taking the lead for facilitating such processes, particularly paying special attention to the intermediation of power asymmetries on data ownership among stakeholders, and ultimately to achieve fair and sustainable locally rooted data ecosystems to be aligned with artificial intelligence, AI investments. In my last couple of minutes, I will keep further exploring these issues, contributing to the ongoing projects, not only Horizon 2020 Replicate project, but also projects that I'm involved at the moment at the European Commission, at the JRC, such as digital transformation, digital scope, data ecosystems, and AI Watch. Thank you for your attention. It's a shame that I have not the chance to see you in Liverpool physically with the human interaction that is needed for this kind of events. Happy to continue this conversation through the Twitter channel or email as you wish. Thank you very much.